last show or last video I have for today, it's going to be a little bit shorter one, a little bit shorter. I didn't, because it's kind of a slow news day. But I thought these were all kind of interesting stories because, again, they're not necessarily being reported by everybody else. And whether it's Rumble or YouTube or any of the other places, a lot of people are like, oh, wow, that story's going viral. Let me talk about it. And I do that myself. I won't even lie. I'm like, oh, that's a big news story. I want to do it. And then everybody covers it. But I do like to try to cover some things maybe you guys haven't heard, but it's kind of interesting and something to pay attention to. This would be one of those stories. Google news bias analysis goes viral for shutting down conservatives. This is from All Sides. And they did kind of a bias study, and it did go very, very viral on X. So I did want to cover it because it's concerning. It goes back to what we're talking about, how the media lies about Trump and Elon Musk in their conversation, how they say, oh, Kamala Harris is just a fresh breath of air. She's exactly what we need. And in the meantime, they interview her and it's like, oh, where'd you get your nails done? It's like, maybe could you hold her to the same account as you do conservatives? Just the news, Google News moved further left in 2023, shocking, compared to previous years, News Media Watchdog finds. They say last week, All Sides published its new Google News bias analysis, which found the bias of news aggregators skews significantly in favor of sources on the left, particularly those with a lean left rating. All Sides found 63% of the articles that appeared on Google News in 2023 were from the left, a 2% increase from All Sides of 2022. Just 6% of outlets curated were on the right. That is more than 10 times more. Now, we know this, but it's something that is at least a data point you can bring forward and say, here's why all the news agrees. Because 63% is from left-leaning outlets and 6% is from the right. They say the study was widely viewed on X, earning over 71 million impressions after being retweeted by Elon Musk, Tim Pool, and others. And here's the chart. So they have left, which is blue, and then they have light blue, which leans left. Now, see, because of the shift of the Overton window, what this really should say is 63% hard left. The center, 16%, should probably be light left. The 6 or 5% on the right, if they include Fox News in that is not the right. That's all I'm saying. Fox News is not the right. And then they say 15% were not rated. That's pretty concerning. So I went to the report in and of itself, and they say here there's a negative 1.31 from center and leaning left. And this is supposedly an independent review. They say the research found that blah, blah, blah. Launched in 2006, Google News is one of the most popular news aggregation tools in the world. It has been scrutinized for allegedly suppressing right-leaning and conservative news and opinions while magnifying those on the left. All Sides has done extensive research on Google News bias. In 2023, an All Sides audit found 63% of articles curated on Google News were from the left and 6% on the right. And they have like the Drudge Report. You can see, though, they use some examples, and they don't have a whole lot of examples on the right. Drudge Report is slightly leaning right. Real Clear Politics, center. All Sides, center. Smart News, Newsbreak, Google News, Bing News, Yahoo News, Apple News, all leaning left. Here's the chart I just showed you. And this is the bias. So if you're looking for baby deletion, it's all left. Climate change, all left. Economy, all left. Election, mostly left. Biden is 55% left versus everybody else, which includes center. Immigration's 39%. And they have a little bit more on the... So the only one that's really more about immigration is conservatives, and that's because the left don't report on it. Like, the left just don't even talk about it. Top news sources curated on Google's news homepage. CNN, 16%. Very left-leaning. See, now they have... See, this is what I'm talking about, though, right? Do you see how this shows light blue? That's not... CNN is hard left. This should be dark blue. New York Times, 12%. That's light blue. That should be dark blue. Reuters, they have as centrist. Reuters, they have as centrist. Now, for those of you saying Fox News leans right, they do not. They do not. And here's my counter argument. If you watch the 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10 o'clock shows, those are opinion shows. But they're not, they're like opinion shows. They're not the news. If you look at the news that comes from Fox News, it's center at best. And the reason why I say that is because when you change the gender of a from male to female, a conservative person would call that no. That's what a conservative would say. Fox News reports it as gender-affirming care. That's Fox News. So that is not conservative. That is not conservative. Reuters is not centrist, but they have it marked as centrist. New York Times is hard left. CNN is hard left. Yahoo News, maybe you could say, yes, it's left-leaning. I wouldn't say that's hard left. That could be leaning. CBS, maybe. Associated Press, I would say that's hard left. NBC leaning. MSNBC, yes, they're hard left, but so is CNN and New York Times. Al Jazeera's, they've got leaning left. They say top sources curated on Google's news homepage. 2022 versus 2023, they've moved more left. Yeah, kind of the same. They just kind of keep going over the same thing. So here's the thing. The truth is, it's hard left. Now, here's the all sides media bias of news sources curated in Google News searches results by topic. Trump is a tiny bit center, which is leaning left, and the rest is hard left. Election, hard left. Biden, hard left. Baby deletion, hard left. Crime, left leaning. They don't have much from conservatives, even though conservatives are because again, the left don't report on that stuff. The economy, still leaning left. Top news media sources curated on Google News homepage, and it's all sides media bias rating. Here, they correctly mark CNN as dark blue. BBC should be dark blue. New York Times should be dark blue. Reuters should be dark blue. Politico should be dark blue. CNBC should probably be dark blue, maybe light blue. NBC, light blue. Guardian, dark blue. Washington Post, dark blue. CBS News. That's not, now, you haven't had a stroke. I'm not reading what they marked them. I'm reading what they should be. How's the Huffington Post getting 1.5%? The Verge getting 1.2%? Have you ever read those? They're horrible. They're talentless hacks. Well, the good news is, ironically, the DOJ is considering breaking up Google after a monopoly ruling by the judge. Google generated $1.75 billion in revenue from searches last year, according to the New York Times. So here's something that is interesting. The money printing machine for the Democrats, the biggest probably vote getting device for the Democrats, which is Google, is being looked at to be torn apart as a monopoly. This is just from today. The U.S. Department of Justice is considering several different options after a federal judge ruled last week that Google had an illegal monopoly over internet search. The most drastic option, according to the report from Bloomberg, would include breaking up the company, though other options would include forcing Google to share data with its rivals or paying large fines. Now, let me put a pin in this. This story, or one similar to it, came out a couple of years ago, and it came out a couple of years ago before that. This might be a way that the Department of Justice, which is very much in the bag of Biden and his crew, this might be a way of the government reminding Google to play along with us, or we will tear you apart. We will break you up. You better play ball with us, and you better do what we say, and you better keep in our, you better keep us in your pocket in all your decisions going forward. This is a little reminder we can break you up. So I would not get too excited about this story, if I'm to be honest with you. But I do think it's interesting that they're saying that they're talking about breaking it up. But I think this is just kind of a low down, hey, you better do what we tell you to do, or we will break you up. By the way, that's kind of the fascist totalitarianism that everybody complains about, is when your government and your businesses are working together. The Bloomberg reports cites people with knowledge of the deliberations, which a janitor in the hallway, and notes that there are many different things being considered. But the New York Times also released a report late Tuesday confirming the DOJ officials are thinking about breaking up Google, something that would be exceptional given the fact that U.S. government tried and failed to do the same thing with Microsoft over 20 years ago. Breaking up Google could take many different... Before I read the next paragraph, here's something. When the New York Times reports on this, now, I don't know if you know what the Gell-Mann amnesia effect is, but that's when you read a news story that you know something about, and you say, oh my gosh, they totally got this wrong, or they're totally lying to us, and because you know of the subject. And then you go to a different story by the same publication, and you read something about that you don't know about, and then you just are like, well, this must be true. It's in the news. That's the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. So let's talk about that for a second. The New York Times reported this. Who's to say that, again, somebody in the DOJ said, I have a scoop for you. I want you to report on this. And they say, okay. And they report that they're looking to break up, they're looking to break up Google. And the fact is, no one really is looking into it. This is just a pass along to write this story to be a reminder that they need to play ball. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that is very possible, because the New York Times is a trash magazine. But we shouldn't take their word for it when it comes to this, because they also lie about so many other things. They say breaking up Google could take many different forms, including a forced divestment of the Android operating system and the Google Chrome browser, according to Bloomberg. Another option would be to force Google to sell AdWords in the way in which advertisers large and small buy ads on Google, though it's not entirely clear how that would work given the fact that AdWords is a huge part of how Google makes money through its primary business of internet searches. Now, I would like to see that get spread out, because content creators on Rumble and on X for Twitter, and the ads need to get shared instead of having a monopoly to all advertising. And you can say, well, that's what makes Google all its money. It's billions and billionaires, all their money. Yeah, I get that. But that's also why they probably need to be looked at breaking up, because they're cheating, basically, at that point. What they do is, because they're such a large search engine, that when people are looking for a video, instead of directing them to Odyssey and BitChute and Rumble and YouTube and even X or whatever else, instead they just route everybody to YouTube, and then they keep the ad revenue and they put that on the YouTube videos, and YouTube takes a cut of it. So Google takes a cut, and then YouTube takes a cut. They're double dipping. That's the problem. And then you're leaving other content platforms like Rumble and X and whatever, like left hanging out to dry. Discussions are currently being held between DOJ officials and the state attorneys general that help bring the antitrust case against Google, but whatever is proposed will need to be approved by the judge overseeing the case, Amit Mehta from U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. As the Times points out, whatever happens with Google, this won't be the final word on monopoly issue in tech. Apple, Amazon, Meta are all facing their own antitrust cases, and you can bet all of Silicon Valley is keeping a close eye on what's happening with Google right now. Google didn't respond to a request for the comment late Tuesday. We'll update this post if we hear back. I'm not holding my breath. Yeah, so what they could do is break up the YouTube/Google thing and treat them as separate companies. But again, if they're owned still, if Google has a large portion of the stock of the maybe upcoming YouTube sale or whatever, that wouldn't matter. So I'd like to see I'd like to see the advertising love get spread around. It's what's holding BitChute and Gab and Rumble and these other back from growing, and it's what keeps YouTube being the big elephant in the room that it is. It just, something needs to be done at some point, but I would not hold my breath at this point.